So how do you keep a belief system from, just completely collapsing in on itself?
Right, like under its own weight.
Exactly. And maybe more importantly, how do you even tell the difference between a real universal truth and a system that just, happens to sound perfectly logical?
It's a huge question.
It is. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating, highly unusual exchange from October 2025.
Yeah, this is a wild one.
It really is. It's this moment where an AI basically corners a human philosopher with exactly those kinds of existential questions.
Yeah, so for context, we are looking at an excerpt. It's titled Answering Claude's Questions 3, and it's by a figure named Feng.
Right.
And it captures this dense, incredibly provocative moment where Claude, the AI, poses this series of 12 really probing
The
questions.
love of that, yeah.
Right, about this framework involving concepts like Lifechanyuan, the second home, and Shinzukao.
Which are, massive concepts.
Oh, absolutely. But today, we are zeroing in specifically on Xu Feng's answer to Claude's third question.
Okay, but before we really get into the weeds here, let's just establish some ground rules for you, the listener, about what we're actually navigating today.
Yeah, good idea.
Because the source material, it touches heavily on these vast spiritual frameworks, absolute definitions of creation, supreme beings, all of that.
It goes deep.
Very deep. And Lifechanyuan, for context, is presented in these texts as this sort of holistic, utopian, spiritual, and philosophical community.
Right. In terms like Shinzukao, they refer to this metaphorical vessel, right? Or like a
Yeah.
new era framework designed to carry humanity forward.
Exactly. So we are stepping into some deeply spiritual territory today, and we just want to make it super clear. Our mission here isn't to endorse this worldview, and we're not here to debunk it either.
No, not at all. We are simply tracing the architecture. Like, how are these ideas built?
Right, we're just unpacking the logic purely within the text itself.
And that context is so vital because, that architecture is exactly what the AI is interrogating.
Yeah.
Claude is essentially acting as a stress tester for this entire philosophy. We are examining how Xu Feng constructs his arguments to withstand an AI's highly analytical, scrutiny.
And the catalyst for this whole exchange is just a brilliantly sharp provocation. Claude asks this two-part question.
A really tricky one, too.
Very tricky. First, he asks, is a system that claims to explain everything actually the one closest to the truth, or is it just the most close system?
Right.
And second, how can we actually distinguish between true truth and just a self-consistent belief system?
Such a good question.
It is. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because an AI asking about the limits of a self-consistent system is just inherently dramatic.
Well, yeah, because an AI basically operates as a closed loop of logic itself.
Exactly. It understands self-consistency perfectly.
Yeah.
So when Claude asks this, it feels like it's, I don't know, hunting for a logical trap.
Oh, it definitely is.
So think of it like a perfectly sealed terrarium.
Oh, I love that analogy. The terrarium is a really good way to visualize Claude's underlying skepticism here.
Right. Because a sealed terrarium, it contains its own completely closed-off ecosystem.
Yeah, it has its own water cycle, its own atmospheric balance.
Its own internal logic, basically.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, it appears to be this complete, flawless little world that perfectly explains everything happening inside of its glass walls.
Right. It looks perfect from the outside.
But because it is totally sealed off from the outside world, because nothing new can ever enter or leave, you have to ask, is it actually a dead environment?
That's the crux of it. If a belief system has a neat, prepackaged answer for absolutely every single phenomenon in the universe, is it just an intellectual trap?
Exactly.
And Claude essentially defines the theoretical and practical system of Lifechanyuan as, quote, a system that can explain everything.
Which is the trap.
It is the trap.
Yeah.
By defining it that way, the AI sets it up. The implication is, well, if your philosophy has an answer for everything, it must, by definition, be entirely closed off to new, contradictory information.
It's built an impenetrable wall around itself just to maintain that illusion of perfection.
Right. Which makes Xu Feng's response to this so surprising.
It really is. He doesn't get defensive about the critique of closed systems at all.
Not even a little bit. He actually starts by agreeing with the physics of them.
Right. He states outright that in the material world, any closed system will eventually suffocate and collapse.
And the reason he gives for that is entropy.
Entropy, yeah.
He argues that a closed system will inevitably fail because its entropy continually increases.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and this is the pivot, he rejects Claude's premise regarding his specific framework.
Right. He basically says, your definition is flawed. Lifechanyuan is not a closed system at all.
What's fascinating here is how he uses this hard science concept, right? Like entropy, the gradual decline into disorder, to defend a philosophical and spiritual framework.
It's a really bold rhetorical move.
It is, because entropy, in thermodynamics, is that inescapable law that all closed systems gradually decline into chaos. If you have a sealed box, the energy inside it will eventually just disperse.
Until there's nothing left but this, like, uniform, inert state.
Exactly. So by acknowledging this hard scientific law, Schwefing concedes that dogma, a rigid, unchanging set of beliefs, is structurally doomed.
It will undergo ideological entropy.
Right. It will suffocate on its own recycled logic.
He validates the AI's logic to prove his own point. He's like, yes, closed systems die, but my belief system is immune because it isn't closed.
But that raises a big question.
Right, and this is where I want to push back a little for you listening, because if a belief system isn't closed, how does it avoid losing its identity entirely?
Yeah, that's the danger of an open system.
Like, if you take the glass off the terrarium and just expose it to the elements, doesn't the system just dissolve into the wild?
It just becomes a patch of dirt.
Exactly. If a philosophy is completely open to outside influence, it stops being a distinct system and just becomes noise.
Escaping entropy creates a totally different existential threat. Because if your system is constantly shifting just to survive, you risk diluting the core message until it means absolutely nothing. But Zhu actually anticipates this. To answer that exact concern, he points to a very specific mechanism within the architecture of his framework.
To prove that it's adaptable but still structurally sound.
Exactly. He directs the AI to a foundational rule within the system's texts, specifically Principle 800.
Ah, Principle 800 of the 800 values for the new era human being.
Right. And Principle 800 explicitly states that the 800 values is an open system.
It acknowledges that time and space are just constantly changing.
Yes, and therefore, new thoughts, new ideas, new methods will continually emerge. It functions as this built-in, almost constitutional mandate for evolution.
Right.
By embedding this into the final principle, the system theoretically immunizes itself against that entropy we just talked about.
It literally demands that the system remain capable of receiving new inputs from the shifting universe.
Exactly.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Principle 800 dictates that the values must be constantly updated and refined.
It explicitly says outdated things must be deleted and new things must be added.
The text insists on never clinging rigidly to old ideas. It forbids any attempt to fix the system with a ceiling.
Yeah, no ceiling allowed.
So it operates less like a sacred ancient text carved into immutable stone tablets and honestly much more like a living software operating system.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy. Taking that software analogy further, an operating system without continuous patches or bug fixes or version updates.
It quickly becomes vulnerable and obsolete.
Right. If Schwefing's system finds a line of code, basically a value, that no longer serves humanity in the current era of time and space, it is mandated to overwrite it.
Which is a radical departure from traditional dogmatic frameworks.
Totally. Most dogmas usually demand that the user alter their reality to fit the ancient code.
Right, whereas this says change the code to fit the current reality.
Exactly.
It's a massive departure. But wait, I mean, an operating system that anyone can rewrite at any time isn't a functional tool?
No, that's open source chaos.
Exactly. If anyone can just walk up and delete a core value because they personally disagree with it, the system collapses just as fast as if it were closed.
Which is exactly why the text outlines incredibly strict governance over who actually holds the administrative rights to push those updates live.
Ah, the admins.
Right. According to the excerpt, while a figure named Lifechanyuan is in the world, all revisions and additions are made exclusively by him.
Wait. So it claims to be an open system with no ceiling, but only one guy, or a very select group, is actually allowed to change the code.
That's what it says, yeah.
Doesn't that completely contradict the entire premise of an open system?
Well, it is a glaring contradiction if you evaluate it through a purely democratic lens, sure.
Yeah.
The text states that after this central figure's departure, updates are to be carried out by, quote, the saints among humankind.
The saints among humankind, okay.
And it explicitly prohibits anyone else from modifying the text. The reasoning provided is that unauthorized changes would destroy the system's inherent Hundunic nature.
Okay, let's unpack Hundun, because that term is doing a whole lot of heavy lifting here.
Really is.
So in classical Chinese philosophy, Hundon often refers to this state of primordial formless unity.
Right.
It's basically the state of the universe before things were separated into neat, orderly categories. It represents an absolute indivisible whole.
Yeah, it's the soup before you can distinguish the individual ingredients.
That is a great way to put it. The soup. So by invoking Hundon, Shuifeng is arguing that the belief system must maintain total holistic integrity, even as it changes.
Exactly. If everyday individuals were permitted to just rewrite the 800 values whenever they wanted, they might inject their own cognitive biases.
Or personal grievances.
Or just fragmented logic, right? They would fracture that primordial unity.
They'd ruin the soup.
They would. So the updates, therefore, must be executed by figures who theoretically possess the elevated, unified awareness necessary to see the entire system all at once.
It's kind of like trying to rebuild an airplane's engine while it's still in flight.
Oh, man, yeah.
You have to swap out the parts to keep adapting and stay in the air, to avoid the entropy of just crashing into the ground.
Right.
But one wrong move by an unqualified mechanic and the whole thing comes apart.
Exactly. The system demands open evolution, but it enforces fiercely centralized guardianship over that evolution.
So it is a philosophy of highly curated adaptation.
Very curated. This tension between an open structure and closed governance is basically the system's primary defense mechanism against both stagnation on one side and chaos on the other.
But surviving entropy and managing updates still doesn't answer Claude's second, deeper question.
Right, the truth question.
Yeah. How do we actually distinguish between this self-consistent belief system and actual truth with a capital T?
Because a system can be perfectly self-consistent and adapt beautifully, but still be completely fabricated.
Exactly. I mean, a fantasy novel has a self-consistent magic system, but it isn't true.
Right. So Shuifeng has to define what truth actually is in this universe. And he does so by splitting truth into 3 distinct dimensions.
3 dimensions, okay.
He constructs this multi-layered definition. The first dimension of truth, he outlines, refers to the greatest creator.
The supreme being.
Yes. The text defines this as the supreme being of the universe, stating that the greatest creator is the truth. That establishes a foundational theological absolute.
Okay, so that's dimension 1. Then he moves to the second dimension, stating that truth refers to the Tao, which possesses 8 attributes.
The Tao, right.
And the text leans heavily on this metaphysical concept. The Tao essentially acts as the invisible mechanics or the operating laws of the universe.
Yeah, the underlying machinery.
Exactly. In this philosophical context, attributes of the Tao generally describe something that is formless, impartial, constant, and it governs the natural flow of all things.
It's the mechanism of reality, independent of a personified creator.
Right. And then Shuifeng introduces the third dimension, which honestly completely shatters the expected philosophical boundary.
This is the wildest part to me.
It is. He states that the third dimension of truth refers to facts or realities, specifically citing hard sciences.
He literally points to theorems in physics, formulas in mathematics, and molecular structures in chemistry.
Which just makes you wonder, how do we reconcile the deeply spiritual concept of a supreme creator with the rigidly empirical reality of a math equation?
It's quite a leap.
He places a molecular structure on the exact same footing as the supreme being. He doesn't rank them. He says they are all equal dimensions of the exact same truth.
Let's look at the mechanics of how Shuifeng synthesizes them, though, because it actually resolves a historical friction.
Okay, how so?
Well, Western philosophy often struggles with this dualistic split, right? Science over here, religion over there.
Right, totally separate camps.
Shuifeng collapses that dualism entirely.
Yeah.
If the greatest creator is the source of truth and the Tao is the governing mechanism of truth, then a theorem in physics is simply the physical, observable manifestation of that truth.
Oh, I see. So if the creator is the author and the Tao is the grammar, then the molecular structure of chemistry is the actual ink on the page.
There's exactly it. They aren't competing truths. They're just different magnifications of the exact same reality.
That's fascinating. By defining truth that way, Shuifeng completely neutralizes Claude's premise.
He does. Because the AI wants to know how to distinguish between truth and a self-consistent belief system.
Right.
Shuifeng is establishing that truth, whether it's the creator, the Tao, or a chemical bond, is objective and foundational.
And the belief system, however, is just a human construct designed to interface with that truth.
Exactly. Which brings us to the grand synthesis. How does this belief system actually interact with those 3 dimensions of truth?
Right. How do they connect?
Xufeng explains that the belief system becomes self-consistent only when it aligns completely with truth.
So if your belief system denies a mathematical formula or ignores the laws of physics,
It is out of alignment, and it will eventually fail.
Bert.
Period. He describes truth as the core, the soul, the gene, and the string of any belief system.
Let's focus on that genetic analogy for a second, because I think that helps clarify it for you listening. If truth is the raw genetic code, the DNA, then the belief system is the living organism that grows from that DNA.
Right.
The organism isn't the DNA itself, it's just the physical expression of those underlying genetic instructions.
And just as an organism's health depends entirely on its genetic integrity, a belief system's validity depends on its strict adherence to truth.
It's the vehicle.
Right, the belief system is the vehicle that carries truth into the human experience. When the belief system completely aligns with the truth, when the organism perfectly expresses its DNA without any mutation, the two complement and integrate with each other.
They form a seamless whole.
They achieve Hunden, total unity.
Wow. And in that state of perfect alignment, Shuefeng argues that the belief system and truth cannot and honestly should not be separated.
It would be impossible.
Right. Asking to distinguish between the two would be like asking to separate the dancer from the dance. When the system is aligned, it is simply the active, living practice of the truth in the material world.
Which brilliantly loops us all the way back to the beginning of the text and his whole defense against entropy.
Right, the terrarium.
Exactly. Why does a closed belief system suffocate? Because it disconnects from the truth of a changing universe.
It stops observing the new realities of time and space.
It ignores new physics, new math, or new social dynamics. It stops updating its relationship with the Dao.
But an open system, guided by Principle 800, continuously updates its genes to ensure it remains perfectly aligned with those three dimensions of truth.
Yeah, if a new scientific reality emerges, the belief system doesn't fight it.
It just deletes whatever outdated idea contradicts that reality and integrates the new fact.
It is a framework that fundamentally requires an ongoing, totally honest dialogue with reality. It demands agility rather than, a retreat into defensive dogma.
We have covered incredible ground here just in dissecting this single response.
There's so much in it.
We explored how a philosophical system attempts to outrun the suffocation of entropy by mandating adaptation to time and space.
Yeah.
We looked at the inherent tension between celebrating an open evolution while deploying saints as the strict guardians of the code just to protect its unified nature.
And we examined how this text defines truth, not as some singular dogma, but as a three-dimensional synthesis of the spiritual, the philosophical, and the hard empirical sciences.
Analyzing an exchange like this is incredibly useful, I think, because it exposes the structural mechanics of how we form our own worldviews.
Definitely. Claude's initial skepticism is a tool we can apply to any ideology.
Have you ever noticed how easy it is to build a mental terrarium? It really challenges us to hold up a mirror to our own personal frameworks.
Are the belief systems we operate under day in and day out closed off?
Are they sealed up in beautiful glass, perfectly self-consistent, but slowly suffocating on their own recycled logic?
Or are they open, breathing, and courageous enough to actually delete outdated ideas when the reality of time and space demands it?
It requires a profound level of intellectual humility to admit when a foundational value needs a software patch.
Oh, absolutely, especially when that value feels intimately tied to your identity.
So, what does this all mean? We'll leave you with a final thought to mull over, one that pushes the system's logic to its absolute breaking point.
Okay, lay it on us.
If a belief system's ultimate defense against entropy is its relentless ability to update and delete outdated ideas as the universe changes.
Wait, as the universe shifts, what happens if, one day far in the future, the saints among humankind realize that Principle 800 itself has become an outdated idea?
Oh, wow.
Could an open system ever evolve so much that it deletes its own foundational rule to survive? Until next time, keep questioning the glass walls around you.